Hi everyone. I'd just like to share with you some additional thoughts to this period of time that we're in, and specifically focusing on the solar eclipse coming up on the 17th of February in Aquarius. And I've already made quite a long video on that, and I'll put the link for that below. But I think the closer we get, the more important I think this period of time is, this eclipse window. We're well into the energy of that eclipse already, and many of us are feeling it. And I think what it is really giving us is a major choice point that is not to be missed. A major choice point that is not to be missed. And I'll share some personal feelings on this too later in this video, because it's also the ending of the year of the wood snake and the beginning of the year of the fire horse in Chinese astrology. And together with a whole kind of cascade of astrological cycles I've been talking about for the last 18 months, the big cycles, the 24,000 year cycle, the 12,000 year cycle, the moving through the galactic current sheet, the ancient prophecies of the indigenous people, many, many, many cycles that I don't need to repeat here, sort of all coming down to this, this period of time we're in. And I think it is very, very important for us collectively and very important for us personally as well. And so already we're feeling that events are moving very quickly. I think we'd all agree with that. But from the 17th of February onwards, they're going to move even faster. We're going to press the accelerator button as of February the 17th. So that's why I think we have to prepare and be very clear in our own lives what we really value. What are the foundations on which we want to build our new lives to make real the dream individually and collectively? What do we really value? What really matters? And this solar eclipse, it's an annular solar eclipse, which means we'll see a ring of fire around the sun. It isn't a total solar eclipse, but it's potent for many reasons, which I covered in the last video. It's in Aquarius, which is ruled by the planet Uranus, and it's also squared by the planet Uranus at this time. And so Aquarius as a sign is speedy. Uranus is also very fast, as what the fire horse by definition. I mean, even if you knew nothing about Chinese astrology, and I know very little, you can feel the energy, the passion, the exuberance, the dynamism of the fire horse. So eclipses are also known to act as wild cards. They can speed things up, things come out of the blue. And we really are entering a time of rapid acceleration, I think, on the 17th onwards. And so what that means on the global level, well, actually on the personal level too, but I was thinking particularly globally, that if foundations of any structure, institution, or even person are shaky or deceptive or corrupt, they are likely to start to collapse very visibly and very rapidly. If your foundations are strong and truthful and authentic and based on love and peace and compassion and care for all living beings and wanting to build a better world for all, then your opportunities, connections, synchronicities will appear very quickly too. So on the one hand, in the old 3D world, you will see more of the old world collapsing rapidly if it has been lacking in integrity and transparency. We're seeing that really clearly already. And I've been talking about this for many, many months. But equally, if you're really focused on how can I help build a better world, you will start to really make connections and meet groups and just all kinds of information coming in for you that will lead you, as it were, to where you really want to be with this vision of your new dream, your new life, but also how it can feed back into the collective to help others. So both are going to operate rapidly. And there's so much drama. There's so much distraction. There's so much color with that old world collapsing already. We haven't even got to the 17th of February. It's very easy to become distracted by all that news. So where are you going to put your focus? Remember, your focus is your superpower. Are you going to focus on the old collapsing world and spend hours and hours on social media focused on that and feed it? Or are you going to really focus on what you're going to create by yourself or with other people? What are you going to create to make a more loving world? So, and so many of us are just yearning for a world where there's this peace and love and abundance for all, and respect for all sentient beings, including the animals and the trees and all of nature. So many of us, we want to see the end of war and disease and poverty and crime. We are just yearning for that. And the vast majority of the global population, I think, would agree with that. So the more we can come together in groups or do it in meditation, we can do it in person, we can do it in meditations. I mean, as you well know, I offer a very simple 15-minute one, 7 p.m. UK time every night, that you can either just join energetically. I've talked about this many times. Go onto the meditation page of my website. If you like, you can watch the video where I had the idea. There's some free 15-minute meditations. I talk about the yogic baby belly breath on that too. It's all for free. Or many other people are doing these meditations all over the world to bring more peace and more love into the world. And the more of us do this, even though we're working with the invisible, the faster it manifests. And we're building this kind of palpable tsunami of love in the world. And I'd strongly encourage you to do that, because these pivotal times, and we are so tightly in this crucible now, these pivotal times matter more. They magnify your effort even more, because we are just a week away from that solar eclipse in Aquarius on the 17th. So we know it's a 1 year in numerology, so it's a new beginning year. A solar eclipse, of course, is a big new moon, which is a new beginning as well. And within 3 days of that solar eclipse, we have that very particular one time only Saturn-Neptune conjunction that I've talked about in many, many, many videos at 0 degrees of Aries. That hasn't happened for over 6,000 years at 0 of Aries. So this is giving us more of a blank canvas as humanity than we have ever had before. We're no longer building on the old, because the old is crumbling. We're starting again afresh. It's this freshness of the vigor, the speed, the fire horse, the freedom that encompasses. And remember, both Aquarius and Uranus are to do with authenticity, truth, freedom. It's going to be a very revolutionary year as well. It's all about revolution. I've covered that in great detail too. But what is it seeding for you? It's going to operate very clearly out there in the world. What is it seeding for you? Because you have about a week left of shedding the old identity, the wood snake, shedding the old skin. I'm feeling this very profoundly, as people close to me know. So what are you shedding as the old identity? What do you really have to let go now and just leave it behind you? And what's the new seed of your authenticity, your truth, your passion? What really matters to you in your life? So I'd ask you to really dive deep in this next week. We've got a week before that solar eclipse arrives on the 17th to really think about that. Because once we are into the Aries equinox, the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, we are getting that's always the beginning of the astrological new year. But we have a huge pile up of planets in Aries. And as we move into April, even more so. I think by the time we get to the eclipse, new moon eclipse on I think it's the 17th of April, we have 9 orbiting bodies in Aries. I've never known that in my life. So this is the sign of ignition, initiation, new creation, independence, go time. It's very, very vigorous. Yes, there's a lot of fire, huge amount of fire, primal fire. Yes, there could be some big drama in the world, for sure. But remember, your focus is your superpower. So again, are you going to just keep looking back and feeding the old world of greed and power and control? Or, however invisible it is, you're going to turn your efforts to creating and link up with other people, whether it's just a meditation group or whether you're coming together to grow vegetables. I've talked about that very good friend of mine who has given up part of her garden and divided it into 6 allotments, and 5 of her friends come along and grow different vegetables, and every week they get together and share the vegetables at harvest time. It's beautiful. And I know other people who run an organic vegetable garden, and when the family have taken their share, they just literally give it away to a food bank or homeless people. Beautiful. So can you get involved in something like that? Is there a local permaculture group that may interest you? But really think about it, because this is a big, big, big time of truth. And so much corruption coming to light, as we're seeing. And, I've been saying for some months that at this time, there's a lot of astrological indicators of that I won't go over again. But one of the very obvious ones right now is Uranus conjunct Algol. And it will stay there until the sort of second week in March. And public figures falling from the pedestal, whether they are leaders, politicians, dignitaries, celebrities, people who are revered in the spiritual world, people who are in the public eye. And if they're found to be lacking in integrity and transparency, they will fall from grace. Well, a few months ago, we already had Prince Andrew, who is now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's been stripped of his royal titles and even his royal accommodation. So that happened fairly recently. You may be aware that in the last few days, we have a very senior long-term Labour politician who's actually been in the House of Lords. He resigned from the House of Lords this week. He was sacked from his job as UK ambassador to the US last September. This is Lord Mandelson, who was in a apparently very close friendship to Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier. And there's a lot of supporting evidence for that. And it's even being alleged that he may have passed on some sensitive information to Epstein. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what's being alleged at the moment. And so there is a lot happening in British political high circles. There's a lot of buzz in the British press this weekend as to whether our Prime Minister is going to resign this week. I don't know if he will or he won't, but he's in a very, very weak position because of his endorsement of Lord Mandelson. And I share these things with you not for prurience of digging into daily tabloid columns, but rather to give you evidence of the astrology manifesting very clearly and dramatically in the world. And this is just the beginning. We're going to have a lot more. 2 very, very prominent spiritual leaders, let's call them, in the spiritual movement have had similar fates this week. They've been exposed in their friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and with a lot of supporting evidence in messages, etc. So as I say, I'm not sharing this for gossip and prurience. I rarely do these things, but to give you evidence of the astrology playing out. And it's just the beginning. There's a load more to come because it's also linked to the shift of power to the people. And so, and the way I want you to, I suggest that you look at this is not, oh my God, everything's falling apart. Well, actually, yes, it is of the old world. And it has to, because we can't build a more loving world on rotten foundations. But I'd like you to develop the attitude that I have, which is, yep, right on time. Right on time. And that's where the astrology helps us so much, like a cosmic weather forecast, to see what was anticipated and what's now unfolding right on time. And it gives you that kind of nonchalance, almost that dismissive attitude that doesn't knock you off center. And that's the really important point here, that you get so embroiled in following the threads on social media, and then because they're going to be zigzags in this, they're going to be he said, she said, is it proof, is it not, all over the place. They're going to be zigzags, and you're going to be absolutely energetically exhausted if you try and follow all of that. And so the most important thing is to come back to your center. And not surprisingly, I'll talk more about that in a moment. So those who have not acted in integrity and transparency, who've acted in terms of service to self and not service to others, they will fall from grace. And there are many, many more to come. As I say, we're just at the beginning of this process. And so, because, as I say, we can't build a more loving world on rotten foundations, we can't just paper it over and pretend it hasn't happened or sweep it under the carpet. We have to see it, partly to say we're never going to do this again, to give away our power to people who haven't acted in our greater good for the benefit of humanity. But we have to take some spiritual responsibility as well in saying, have I, in my fear, in my deference to external authority, actually fed that beast? And I'm now seeing the consequences. Therefore, I have to take more spiritual responsibility in watching my thoughts, watching my frequency, so I don't keep giving my power away, which ends up in consequences such as we're seeing now. So we are going to see a lot of extreme events this year. We are seeing, some incredible earth events in terms of extreme weather, with fires and flooding in Australia. It's been horrendous, the temperatures there. In South Africa, in America. I mean, the situation in Sicily, where an entire town, a very densely populated town, has just fallen off a mountainside because of the, I think it was Cyclone Harry that was battering Sicily. There have been very strong storms in the southern Mediterranean, southern Europe, and it has undermined the structure of the cliff that was holding up the town. There have been huge storms. I think this is Storm Leonardo, I believe, that has been hitting Spain, Portugal, and Morocco very heavily in the last few days, with a lot of flooding. Ironically, people are cut off from the water supply despite all the flooding. A lot of people are out of power, and they've been in that situation for some days. So again, put these people in your prayers and your meditations to just let it all abate. We can do a lot when we come together in numbers collectively to make it all abate. Just calm it down. But we are going to get a lot of shocks and surprises and a lot of truth coming to light about our history, about who we really are as humanity. We are going to get an awful lot of, it's going to keep on coming at us this year. And what you really have to watch is your nervous system, because we have a lot of Aquarius energy this year, Pluto in Aquarius, etc. The North Node is going to move into Aquarius in July for 18 months. And Aquarian energy, if you just look at that double jagged line, the glyph, it kind of describes that jazzed up, it's kind of buzzing you get on the interference on a television set. There's too much stimulation, too much input. It's also linked to technology, spending too much time on screens. I spend 10 to 12 hours on a screen a day. That's going to change very, very, very soon, as of about now, because it's ridiculous. So, and it's not that my nervous system is really getting knocked out of whack, because I know how to bring myself back to center after all I've shared with you. But not everybody does. And it's going to be very easy with all of these shock surprises, particularly if you know nothing about what's coming out. I mean, some of us have known a lot about what was going on, but not everyone by a long way. It's going to be very destabilizing. So you have to find simple ways, such as I've described hundreds of times, to bring yourself back to center. Candle gazing, breath work, hug a tree, do some yogic belly breath, do some yoga, tai chi, walk in nature, all the things I've described in more detail. So, and your energy will become very scattered, and again, you give your power away. So really put that high up the list. That's part of, self-care. And I often get the question about, what do we do about the sufferings and on the absolute horrors that are going on in the world? We're well aware of the wars and the atrocities and the hunger and the poverty and the people suffering from all these extreme weather events and earth events and earthquakes. And, there's some very, very hard stuff out there that it's hard to protect yourself from, because, By the grace of God, it could be any one of us in those geographies. So, as I've always said, if you can't help practically, if you're not on the ground and deliver physical aid of blankets or soup or whatever, and you can send money if you know it's going to the people, but the one thing we can all do is we can send our prayers and our meditations to calm everything down. And the 2 free 15 meditations I have on my website under the meditations page will take you through how you might want to do that every day to try and just calm everything down. And I think we also have to feel the degree of empathy and sadness and suffering and loss and grief along with our brothers and sisters. We can't separate ourselves from that and just spiritually bypass and say, well, I'm all right, Jack. We can't do that. We deeply feel, because it could be any one of us. Tomorrow, it could be any one of us. The flooding around me is getting pretty wild. So it's that sense of deep compassion that we have, and we have to honor those feelings and sit with those feelings of grief and sorrow. But I also want to say, don't throw yourself into it so fully, the horror of what's going on in the world, that you get into a situation of, oh my God, we're all doomed. It'll never be any better. That you're just throwing yourself into the awfulness, and then you can't get back to center, because it's your center is the point from which you can help people, yourself and the collective. That's what's important. But these extreme events certainly feed our sense of compassion, and ultimately that leads us to unity consciousness. And it absolutely deepens our collective conviction of, we are going to build a way more loving world than this. We cannot continue to live with these things going on. There's a very important rape gang inquiry going on in the UK that is pretty horrific and harrowing to listen to. But these things have to be revealed in order that we can stop it and not repeat it. We have to see it, and it's very harrowing to listen to. Again, it could be any of us. By accident of birth, we ended up in that place. And so it isn't so much, I think, and I'm often asked this question as well, for me, it isn't so much, yes, we can feel righteous anger, but if we're generally angry and judging and polarized, and I'm right, you're wrong, and you're on the wrong side, and I'm on the right side, and all of that, or in great fear, we are actually just feeding the old 3D system of separation and polarity. It isn't getting us beyond that. So what I always try and say, my way through this, is to say we have to go beyond that. And it's not so much a question of, yes, we've got to stand up for what's right with conviction, absolutely, and integrity, and what's for the highest good of all and the highest good of the earth, absolutely. But ultimately, our focus is we are outgrowing it. We don't have to fight it in the old 3D way to get us back to polarization. We outgrow it because we stand for love. We stand for truth. We stand for what's right for all. And so the old world will just become irrelevant. And the more of us that can do that, the faster it's going to collapse, because it is collapsing, and it just makes that collapse faster. And so the most important thing, as I've said so often, particularly in these jazzed up years, so much coming at us, and it will, I promise you, at the 3D level, is your state of being is your absolutely top priority. Absolutely top priority. So, and really embody that feeling of love, peace, calm, compassion, gratitude, authenticity, joy, those feelings, embody them so you really feel them in yourself. And it's a very particular sense where you're living, as I've spoken about, from the inside out. they become part of you, of who, an integral part of who you are. And I haven't cracked it 24/7. I've had quite a week of struggle this week, which I'm going to go on to share with you. But I understand where I'm trying to get to, and I'm on my journey, and I'm doing my best, just as we all are, as humans with who are imperfectly perfect, let's say. So, and I think thinking of yourself as in all this swirling energy, because the energy is very turbulent, because the old world energy is collapsing as the new world energy is coming in at great speed and high frequency. Our job, each of us, is to be the lighthouse, the anchor, the calm in the storm, the stabilizer, because we are the anchor point, if you like, between heaven and earth. We're the antennae for all of these high frequency energies coming in, because Gaia is going through her own pretty radical rebirth as well, to really create stabilization in that new web of light and love, which is building every day. That's our job. Leadership will be calm. It will be peaceful. It will be loving. It won't be authoritative and telling people what to do and rules and regulations. That'll be the last thing it will be. And it may even be very, very quiet. And for me, the target to aim for, which I can feel pretty often, is that radiant, blissful presence of peace. That radiant, blissful presence of peace. And when you can hold that all the time, you notice it. People who have that, they walk into a room and without even speaking, they can calm down the whole room. They infect everybody in that room with their beautiful, calm, loving energy. The ascended masters in the past were supposedly able to do that. This is our target. And it takes practice, and as I say, we're all on our journey, but that's my target. My target isn't so much the fight. That's my target, because when you work energetically, you can change things much more quickly than working in a 3D linear. We've got to do this and this and this and this. It's a really fast way to shift the energy, particularly when we come together in groups. And so this is an incredibly important window. And when I filmed my solar eclipse video update, I didn't realize how important, but I really do now realize how important. And I think we are being called on, each of us, to make a big change in our lives, either internally or externally, sort of in your daily structure in some way, to make a change, to signal to the universe, yeah, I'm hearing you. Yes, I'm very aware of shedding the old identity. And the old identity might have been absolutely perfect for your past. It might have been right on what you were meant to do in the past. But now we have this new potent solar eclipse, big new beginning, in Aquarius, square to Uranus, truth, authenticity, freedom, independence, power to the people. And also Venus is exactly conjunct the North Node at this solar eclipse. We are birthing the new identity for ourselves and the world with love, with the sacred feminine. Venus is right on the North Node, our collective path of growth for our future at the cell level. It couldn't be more beautiful. And so I rarely share anything personal, as you know, rarely, but I'm going to share something personal today because the last week has hit me quite hard. I've been very tired for a very long time, actually. The workload is very intense, it's very heavy. And particularly this last week, I've been feeling incredibly tired. And I've been developing various physical symptoms, which I won't go into. And, my eyes have just been incredibly sore and tired with all this screen time. But I've kept going because I felt it was the right thing to do. And for about the last year, 18 months or so, you can check this out for yourself. If you go onto my website, the contact page, on the contact page, there's on the drop-down menu, there's an interview request that you can put in. And it says in big, bold block capitals, Pam is not available for any conversations or interviews. No time limit on that, no time definition. Pam is not available for any conversations or interviews. Big, bold capital letters. And nevertheless, many times a week, I get invitations to be a guest speaker or be on a panel or, whatever. And so I turn 95% of those down because I just don't have the capacity, and I know I'll get even more tired in doing that. And I'm going to turn down even more. I'm going to turn down 99% of those. I'm going to honor those that are in the diary, but I'm just, and this is in particular me being interviewed by other people. And even though they say, gosh, this will build your business, it will give you more publicity and profile and, bring in more income for you, I couldn't care less. People who know me well know my simple joy comes from walking in the woods every morning in any weather and throwing sticks in the stream for my neighbour's dog. That brings me pure joy. My friends will testify to that. It isn't, building my business, earning more income, more publicity are zero motivators for me. I just am not interested. I will reduce the number of conversations I have with other people, although I absolutely will continue the conversations that I think are really helpful to you. Really people who I know you respect and engage with and really feel their energy is pure and genuine. And I will continue to have conversations with those people where I'm interviewing them rather than being interviewed. Because the other thing about being interviewed is I often just don't have control of the headlines that go out there that are often very sensationalistic. And that doesn't kind of fit at all who I am and where I'm at. I'm sharing all of this really personally with you. I will still do the updates for you, of course, but overall the volume of videos will reduce. And that's partly what I want to say, because I'm just feeling in such a deep place with this right now that I don't want to keep up the volume I've been doing because it isn't right for where I'm going. And I'm sure you're aware that I'm starting this 2-year shamanic training in April, beginning of April, some of it, quite a lot of it in France over the next 2 years. I'm really looking forward to that because it's going to take me out of my analytical head, into my heart, into my energy, into my body, and into the earth. And that's right on time. So a new identity will develop, a whole new episode that's very clearly defined. And I'm very lucky to have that it's, and maybe it wasn't luck because, last year when we had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction coming super close within minutes, that's when I had a taster of what's coming up. So I'm not disappearing, but I am going to step back a little. I'm going to reduce my screen time for sure and follow more of my own advice of, meditating, shutting my eyes, dropping into my breath. I'm absolutely going to do that. But I know this will change me the next 2 years. And what I hope it will do is not only obviously enrich me as a person and really change my state of being profoundly and connect me to the magic of the earth in a bigger way than ever, but help you, because it will enrich my work in a way I can't anticipate yet at a deeper level. And since I made that decision, I've really made that decision about, pulling back even more over the last 3 days. And since then, the pain I was having in various parts of my body has suddenly eased off. It's like the universe says, okay, message delivered, message delivered and received. She's got it, she's heard us. Because I was getting a lot of pain in the right side of my body, which is the kind of pushing forward old habits, yang side of my body. And so, yeah, okay, universe, I've the message is received. So So I wanted to share that with you because I rarely share personal things, but I wanted to do it for you to be aware of your choice point. It is huge because once we get into this acceleration on the 17th of February, and you'll see it in the world, and the world may appear to have tighter control at times, but it's just getting louder and more hollow. You know, commit to building a more loving world for all, and you'll be on the right path. But I sense your role will be changing. Think, as I said earlier, what do you really value? What really, really matters to you in your life? You know, moving through your days, what change can you make internally or in your daily routines and structures to signal to the universe, okay, I've got it. This is the change I'm going to make. Is it less screen time? Is it less doom scrolling through social media? Is it bringing yourself back to center? Is it being in nature more? Is it having more fun socially? Is it going dancing? Is it joining a singing group? Because that raises your frequency. You know, what is it for you? Is it growing vegetables with friends? You know, what is it? Is it really committing to helping out an orphanage in Africa? What can you do to raise funds via car boot sales or whatever to send to very poor children who may not have enough clothes or clean water or electricity? You know, can you commit, you know, whatever it is, whatever is your truth that really you feel that's important to me to create a more loving world. So I really, because I'm feeling this so deeply in myself and in my bones, and it even goes beyond the rarity and the potency of the astrology that I've been talking about that is so incredibly clear. So particularly as we enter this eclipse window, and you'll feel it, you know, you should feel it now super strongly, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and ongoing now. You know, it's a shift, it's a phase shift. And I talked with Zach just a few days ago about this, and he talked about it the ending of the Earth's maturity. I think he was talking about the maturation of the Earth as Gaia enters a whole new episode. And of course, we are in symbiosis with the Earth. So choose love, choose peace, choose gratitude, choose joy, choose compassion, and starve out the scary and love in the good. God bless. I hope it's helped. I'm not disappearing, but I just wanted to really share where I'm at with this so you will understand where I'm coming from. And I hope it's helped you. God bless. Bye for now.